name's Travis Sims, and I am the founder and CEO of AGC Accelerated Global Connections. And this is the AGC Experience.
On today's The AGC Experience podcast, we talk to Luis Moreno and Donte Curtis about an all-important subject, human-centered leadership. That's right. You see, we're talking about leading with humanity, compassion. We're talking about leading with empathy, making sure everyone feels included. Diversity inclusion is a huge topic for today. It's not a political discussion. There's no politics about it. We're talking about loving and leading with everyone. Listen to today's podcast for some great tips from leading experts in the Twin Cities area where they share their experience and knowledge about including everyone and making sure we all feel a part of the team.
Banner season. It's about mailboxes, not inboxes. Building better relationships has never been easier. Using our platform, you can easily send a card and personalized gift to anyone with a simple tap or click. Or fully automated. Stop the digital overload and do something that will mean so much more. Banner season is the easiest way to wow people and the way for you to really get their attention. Develop stronger relationships, increase revenue, and improve your retention. You know you've reached an entirely new level when you inspire customer referrals and you don't have to consistently ask for them. For more information, contact Bo Young at 320-249-1576 or go to betterappreciation.com.
Start our conversation about human-centered leadership. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Donte. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you for the invitation. A pleasure to be here with you, Travis.
Oh, fantastic. You know, today is really a discussion panel, and I led into this a little bit. You know, our nation has been through the ringer in the past year. I mean, it really has. And I don't mean to center this around politics, because I don't believe that what we're about to talk about is political at all, right? We're really talking about humanity. We're talking about love. We're talking about compassion. We're talking about empathy for all people, for all races, for all humans. And you guys, this is what you do. This is what you do for a living. You consult with others and help us, you know, that are just learning how to make everyone feel included in everything that we do. Because I really believe that majority of the people are good and honest people and want to do the right thing. There's only a few bad apples that are loud, and they make it bad for the rest of us. So where do you want to start? How do we get this conversation moving?
I can share some thoughts. So first, thank you for the invitation, Travis. And you are right. We are in a time in life, you know, or in the country where things are very polarized, and it is completely normal for people to have an opinion and a position on things. What I think the opportunity that we have is that people are like so focused on their own position that it's becoming more and more difficult for them to sit at the table and be able to have a conversation with someone that has a different opinion. And I think this is very important, because one of the things that we learn through emotional intelligence is the ability to learn to recognize, understand, know your emotions, and actually know how to manage them. So for example, it is completely natural and normal that when someone may say something that kind of disagrees with what, let's say, for example, if we were to support a political ideology or party, and someone comes in that has the complete opposite view, like our emotions, like it just becomes hard for us to be able to have a conversation. So within the practice of emotional intelligence, and there are a lot of best practices for you to develop the ability to first is get interested in somebody else's thoughts and ideas that are different from yours. So like if someone has an opinion on anything and that is very different from yours, to actually have the ability to, with interest and genuine empathy, that you would listen to what that person has to say. But then second is, if you understand your body, your emotions, then how those emotions may manifest, where like if you for example, in my case, when I'm stressed, when somebody stresses me out, I feel it on my shoulders. So my shoulders hurt because it's like the pressure, it comes up here. So now I know to when I try to kind of move my shoulders a little bit. And then I know, for example, that drinking water helps me because, I can calm a little bit. And that is going to be different for every person. But what I would recommend kind of starting the conversation is, first is, and I will share later some practices on how to get interested in somebody else's point of view. But, I would recommend we do more. And then second is that you start to identify, how does your body react when somebody says something that is different from what you believe, or different from your values. And then once you identify that, you can write it down, and then start to learn techniques on how you can control that. For example, there are people, a lot of studies show that the contact with nature helps you. For example, some people take off, when they can later, they can take off their shoes and their socks and walk on the ground. It can be on grass or sand, depending on where you are. And that actually helps many people to control their emotions. For some of the people, the contact with water, for example, if I'm doing the dishes, the contact with the water and the sound of the water kind of running through, into the, with the plate, it actually calms me down. But it's identifying what may help you so that you can stay, in conversation, and so that you can listen to the perspectives of somebody that thinks differently than you. So I'll start with that. And I know, Donte, you have a lot of other best practices and techniques.
Yeah. So I think where I would like to start is to think about, why did we say human-centered leadership, right? Like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, are there other types of leadership? And I want to say that, right. So human-centered leadership is important, but know that everyone don't value humanity the same, right? So for example, we could be on here talking about profit leadership, like how do you make more profit? How do you make more money, right? And we're not here talking about that today, right? We're here talking about human-centered leadership, which is really about kind of what Luis is talking about. How do we interact with human beings, right? How do we pull the best out of humans, right? How do we get human beings to see their full potential? And that's again, we're not trying to make this political, but there's certain people who do that better than others. And so how do we tap into that? Because the reality is that human beings aren't going anywhere anytime soon, right? And we know that companies that really center humans and their potential and their innovation do better, right? So this isn't just I think sometimes we have these conversations around leadership, right? Like leadership tends to be a very an extracurricular activity, right? But it's not, right? This is not an extracurricular activity. This is the main stuff. This is the meat. Because if you can't lead, you probably aren't going to be successful in 2020. It's just probably not going to happen.
Yeah, you actually, and sorry, Luis, you bring up a really good point. And that is leadership. When I think about leadership, I look at a person, not only what they're doing with their company, but also what they're doing out and away from their company. Like what happens on social media, the posts and the conversations that they're having on social media, the things that they're sharing reflects not just on themselves, but on the companies that they're representing. That's why we're seeing, even employees losing jobs over, not being thoughtful about their posts or sharing something that they shouldn't have. And I really like, Luis, how you said, hey, take time to pause and really just take an interest to learn, be open-minded, maybe even reflect a little bit before you respond, right? Have that more thoughtful approach as opposed to a fast reactive approach.
Yeah. And I want to connect on things that both Donte and you said, Travis. So one is the mention on humanity, the need for human. One of the things we've learned, from the research is that people, a human need that we all have is a need for connection, right? And that kind of sounds so trivial and so basic, but connection doesn't mean people. sometimes think of connection in a basic way. So for example, I have sometimes I get an email that someone says, hey Luis, I thought about you the other day and I want to connect you with one person. It's someone that is from Latin America, is has worked in corporate, speaks Spanish, is Latino, is this and that. And he continues to say, like, is his name Luis too? He's, because by the way, I'm happy to meet the person, but I don't only connect with people that are my mirror. I mean, I could be as excited to meet someone that is from Japan or Germany or Africa, and they don't have to do the same thing I do. I mean, they may say, oh, Luis, they do marketing too. And so basically they're thinking that connection is about getting two people that almost are like a replica of each other, and they're going to connect. But actually, even though you can connect in that way, there's a different way to connect, which is more connecting on the human side of things, right? So like, how do you do that? It's about connecting, so for example, all right, you are doing something that is totally different from from what I do. You're in a different field. It's like we can't be any more different in terms of like we are. But do we also, do we grieve when we have a loss? Do we love our children, right? Do we love our parents? That's a different kind of connection. And I say this because sometimes, like, I find that I may be speaking to someone and I can be saying something to them, and one of the things that happens is that our brain, through a process called fast brain, is actually looking for that connection. So I'm speaking, and the words are going by because the person is just waiting for that connection. And the connection is something that is the same as my world, right? And we need to stop that to find the connection where, you're speaking to me and you're saying, hey, I went to play bowling. And I've never played bowling in my life. I say, oh, bowling. Wow, that's very interesting. And where do you guys go to play bowling? And how, did you win? Did you lose? How was your score? And what else? Tell me more about it and stuff. Where in this case is I am connecting with something that is not part of my world, but I am connecting because I do it through my genuine interest in that person. So I'm a human, you're a human, you are important as well. Anything that you are interested about is something that I can, recognize its value. And then the last thing that I say in this point is that another way to connect is by believing. What do I mean by that? Many times when people tell us something, the filter that we have to believe in what the person is telling us is that it has to connect with something that has happened to us. So that if someone tells me something and that hasn't happened to me, then it must not be true. Then I cannot connect. But we can actually shortcut that process in our brain where we're able to believe something that is true for somebody else, even when it's not true for us, right? So our brain has a natural process in fast brain that when somebody tells us something, we are thinking, how is it for me? And the example that I've given, I think I gave it in the other in the other presentation we had, is when we tell somebody it's cold, the person says, no, it's not cold. It's like, I'm not cold. And it's like, no. I didn't say that it was cold. I said that I was cold. And it doesn't really matter whether you're cold or not. I am cold. I'm independently cold. You might be hot, but I am cold because I could be cold because of something that is happening internally in my world. I may be sick, and that's what I am cold. So the next time that someone comes to you and says, I am cold, don't reply with, no, it's not cold. Just say, oh, it is cold. You are cold. What can I do to help you? Can I give you my jacket? Do you want to go inside? Can I turn on tell me if there is anything that I can do to help you so that you feel better. It's independently on how I feel.
Yeah. Oh man. So what I just heard you say, if I had everything you just said into one word, I would say empathy. Right? It's empathy, right? It's the ability to be able to put yourself in somebody else's situation, even though you don't experience that situation. Right? Michelle Obama talked about this at the DNC, right? She literally gave a 50-minute speech all about how we need more empathy. Yeah. And empathy is such an important thing. And I really love that because, oftentimes, as someone who does diversity inclusion work, right, race and gender and all that stuff pops up a lot for me. And the thing is that, like, I think sometimes in our world, we think that we, like you said, we have to experience everything that people have experienced to understand. And the reality is, as a black man, there's just some things that people will not understand about being a black man in the United States of America. And so that doesn't mean that my experiences aren't true, right? That doesn't mean that my experiences aren't valid. And you know, there's a quote that I love that says, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Exactly.
Believe them, right? And if we just, man, Luis, if we could just believe people when they said that, hey, I'm scared when this police officer is behind me. Hey, I'm feeling unsafe when I come to work. I'm tired of you touching my hair. I'm tired of you making fun of my accent, right? If we could just believe them, I think we could increase our humans in leadership by 100% just by believing somebody, right? Because oftentimes we try to get defensive, and we try and deny them. We try to minimize their experience. And it's like, no, right? Like, we need to adapt what they're doing or what they're saying to fix the situation, right? Instead of denying it, right? Which is so important.
Yeah, and I want to build on what you just said, Donte. Thank you very much, because you are, you know, in your thoughts, you're leading into something that is really important, that is curiosity, right? So one of you know, curiosity is a human quality that we have, and it's interest in learning and understanding more. And sometimes, like, it was more even generationally, you know, back in the past. So for example, like in the, I don't know, 60s, 70s, and 80s, if your parents told you something, you grew up in a family that has certain beliefs, you were, I mean, the right thing to do, and what was accepted by society is that you had to take that and you had to grow up with those same values. And I think that a lot of research is showing that generationally, you know, the younger generations are more about, okay, I respect my elders, I respect my parents, I hear your point, but I have a curiosity. And now with technology, with the internet, I want to also do some checking myself. So I hear you, but let me see what the experience is from what I am seeing. And the reason why this is important is because sometimes curiosity can also help us to do kind of like the double click to dig deeper. When in the example that you gave, Donte, so for example, you know, a black man comes to me and you tell me something, and it may be something like that is foreign to me. It's like, what, you know, I mean, I am not a black man. I don't know what you were telling me. It doesn't really match my world and my experiences, what I've gone through. But I need to learn more about it, and I have to have a curiosity. First, it can start with you. Say, okay, Donte, tell me more about it, and you know, and how do you experience it, and then, you know, what can I do and all that. But ask more questions. For example, I can tell you, and to do it as basic as possible, in the ability to develop positive relationship with other people and to increase your likability, one part is as simple as the name. My name is a very simple name, Luis. It's 4 letters, but the majority of people don't say my name right, and it would be so simple to do it. It's just by asking me, hey, Luis, how do you say your name? And it would not offend me. I would be happy if you ask me, how do you say your name, right? I give him the name. And then, so in this example, right, we're going to be working with more and more people that are not the same as the people that we grew up with, that we went to church with, that we went to high school with. We're going to be working with people because it's a global world, and you know, our society is being more and more diverse. We're going to be working with people that, for example, have names that are different than the names that, you know, that we're used to. So first thing is First is the empathy, to understand the name is something that is important for the person. So I cannot just, if a person is Asian, I'm not going to come up with my own American name for, oh no, your name is, you know, I don't know, Tosher Sean, but I'm going to call you, you know, Peter, because it's more comfortable for me. No, it may be more comfortable for you, but that's not what the person would have liked, because the person grew up with, you know, their name, right? So first is to have the empathy to understand the importance of a name. The second one is to have a curiosity to say, okay, how is that name pronounced? The third one is to have that connection and that, you know, relationship and trust to say, hey, you know, Donte, by the way, you know, how do I, you know, can you tell me how your name is pronounced? And then when you say it to me, to have that interest in learning it, so that the next time that I'm talking with you, I actually use it and I use it right? So something so simple like that. And in the same way, it's about learning about all the things, all the experiences. How is it for you? So that when people tell us, you know, what they are experiencing it, that we believe it. Like, I love the example you say, Donte, when somebody tells you, who they are, believe them. So I'll just say one last example. And so the curiosity too is, if we look at numbers, sometimes people say, well, numbers don't lie. So you see a number, you see some percentages, and you just go with it. But you have to have the curiosity to, kind of dig deeper into those numbers. For example, diversity. Oh, okay, let's look at the numbers in our company. Oh, you have, I don't know, 30% of our employees are Black, so we're good. Our job here is done. We're very good. I wonder why are some people that are, unhappy. Professionals of colors are unhappy because they say that we don't have diversity. But I looked at the numbers, and the numbers are looking good. Okay, but if we have a curiosity to look beyond those numbers, to really see, okay, where are the people of color? What positions do they have? What kind of influence do they have?
Yeah.
They have big titles, maybe they're vice presidents, but do they have people reporting to them? Do they have, are they in departments that are important to the core business of the company? Are they in roles that lead to bigger and better positions? Their compensation rate, are they, equitable to others? So that means the curiosity to look beyond just the surface.
Yeah. Can I just want to say one thing, right? Because AGC is all about networking. And when we talk about networking, right, the name is so important, right? That like when we, it's, hey, my name is Donte. What's your name? Right. Right. And like you can't do leadership if you can't even get the name right. So I just want to dig into this name piece a little more, because I love names. And what I tell people when I talk about names is that a name is a celebration of you. Yeah. So if you're trying to build connection and you can't get my name right, like off the bat, we're already at a disadvantage, right? Already. And my example for this is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? When someone in our society contributes to change and we want to celebrate them, we put their name somewhere, right? When someone gives a lot of money to something, right, we put their name on a building. And so we know that as a society, one of our social norms is to celebrate people by putting their name somewhere. And so just off the bat, if you can't say my name, it subconsciously I'm like, you're not celebrating me, right? You just tolerated me. You just saying it's okay to call me whatever. Also, fun fact, Luis will appreciate this, is that when you say someone's name, it releases dopamine in their minds. So now it's not just outwardly, it's also biochemistry, right? That like, I'm happy when you say Donte. Like, and even if I'm not happy, I'm going to be happy in a couple of seconds because dopamine is rushing through my body. And so I think this whole thing around names is deeper than that. Right? When we come networking, I mean, like, I'm not going to work with anybody who don't want to understand my name. Like we just ain't going to connect like that. And so I think a huge piece is, like you said, Luis, is the name piece. And then the second piece I want to mention is this piece around curiosity. And I want to ask, because I talk a lot about curiosity too, kind of curiosity over certainty, curiosity over judgment. But I want to ask, how do we breed curiosity? So not how do we do it, right? Because I know how to do it, right? I know how to ask powerful questions and ask what and how and what and all those type of questions and be interested instead of interesting. I get all that. But how do you make somebody curious, right? Because even when we look at our political world right now, there are just some people who just aren't curious to know other people. So how do we flip the switch from someone being not curious to being curious?
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, Luis. I want to jump in one moment just because we're talking about networking, and AGC and our audience is very built out of professionals that are out trying to network. And I always baffles me, or I see this happen even in, mostly live events, but even on Zoom events and so on. And that is that people tend to gravitate towards people that look like them, that think like them, that do the same thing as them. It's so interesting because you go to a networking event to promote your business and meet new people, but I'll see all the realtors all huddled together because they all know how to talk real estate. But is that really growing their business? Probably not, And so, I've said always that if you're just networking with people that look like you and that think like you, you're not diversifying your network. And you need to have diversity in your network to reach those new audiences and to really grow as a person, as a professional, and to grow your business. So I love all the things that you're hitting on when it comes to, are you being around people that are different than you? Are you open-minded to the things they say? Do you believe them? Are you learning their name? All these things are great tools for the business owner, the salesperson, the entrepreneur that wants to learn how to network and wants to do it right.
Can I just say one thing? Because I think Luis about to answer the question around curiosity, but I just want to say one thing about that piece is that when we talk about diversity, oftentimes we talk about it as just as a moral thing. Like, we need to do diversity because it's the right thing to do, because our creator tells us to, because we just want to be good humans. But I want to tell you that diversity is not just about moral and morality. It also supports you financially, right? So we know through research and also just through empirical evidence that diverse teams, diverse businesses do better, right? You can go look up McKinsey. They have research on this where they talk about the more diverse your company is in terms of not just race. Let me also be clear. We're just not talking about race. We're talking about gender, sexual orientation, people with disabilities, people with different cognitive disabilities, LGBT folks, income levels. I'm just not talking about race. But when you bring more diversity into a space, things get better. People do better. Innovation happens.
And I think I want to build on both of those comments. So it's interesting because, just like you were saying, Travis, that we're going to tend to want to network and spend time with people that are similar to us. Something as simple as the name. It could be that somebody's name is so different for me that it may make me uncomfortable. Just the thought of the fact that I won't be able to say that name right may be a factor in, as I am selecting who to go and talk to. Maybe people have like their name tags at an actual presence event or physical event. And when I see that name tag and I see it's a name that is kind of a little different or weird for me, I was like, maybe I go walk and look for somebody whose name is more similar to mine. So, and we shouldn't do that. And I'll share something interesting. And, this is one of the things where like maybe the audience can contest me on this, but I will say that actually curiosity for something that is different can actually be good for your health and for your life. You can live longer. Why do I say that? A lot of people, and live healthier, I should say, not longer necessarily, but healthier. Why do I say that? Because a lot of people who study the brain, and I am not a physician, and so I'm not a doctor, I don't know anything about that, but from what I've read, is what they say is that your brain is going to be healthier it's like a muscle, right? So you have to keep it practicing. And one of the things that happens with your brain is that when it gets comfortable with something is familiar, then it kind of rests. So for example, if you have worked in the same place for 20 years, 30 years, and you drive in the same route, and you drive the same car, the same route, the same street and everything, your brain does it in automatic pilot. So what that means is that your brain is actually not longer really working much because it kind of already knows what you're doing, right? Yeah. Whereas when you are, even if you're working in the same, working in different jobs in different companies would help you because you need to learn something new, and learning something new is good for your brain. But even if you have the privilege of working in the same company for a very long time, I would say try to find different roles, different opportunities, work in a different building. And when you drive to work, take a different route and do something different, because that's going to help you learning. It's actually going to help your brain. And in this case, if you are networking with people that are different than you, then that exercise of having to learn a name that is different, that is, it will require some energy from you and some exercise in your brain that will be positive. And I will also expand on the name. In my case, for example, some people sometimes will say something like this to me. They'll say, "Hey, Luis, right? Because you're from Brazil, right?" I said, no, I'm not from Brazil. I'm from Venezuela. "Oh, yeah, it's like Brazil, Venezuela. Yeah, it's the same thing. They speak the same language." It's like, no, it's not the same thing, and we don't speak the same language. In Brazil, they speak Portuguese, and Venezuela, we speak Spanish. And we have to be careful with these things, because the way, this could be a very well-intended person. This is, we all mean well, right? We're good people that have good intentions. But when we say a comment like that, like, Brazil, Venezuela, it's the same thing. It's like what we are projecting to the other person, and the way that it can be perceived is that, well, in your mind that's important, like my country of origin is less important. And I realized that learning the geography of a different region of the world is difficult. I am particularly not very good with geography, but going back in the same example as the name, the exercise of paying a little bit of attention to try to really remember, okay, that person told me that he was from Venezuela or Colombia or Costa Rica or whatever, write it down or do something or connect it with something else. Because just like Donte was saying that when you say the person's name right, it's going to release dopamine. Is also when you tell somebody something that is right about them, about their place of origin, about something that the university that they went to, where their kids, are attending school or anything like that, people feel value because, wow, you really were listening to me and you make the time to, keep that in your brain. So, just like you were saying, I want to do business with you because you must care about me to be able to follow up on these things.
Yeah. Oh my God, Luis, why haven't we talked before in this way? So I just want to I'm thinking of a Les Brown quote where Les Brown says that if you do what is hard, your life will be easy, and if you do what is easy, your life will be hard.
I love that. Never heard that before. I love it.
And so I kind of like get that. Like when you said, right, like be curious. It's hard, right? Like being curious all the time is hard work, right? It's hard for your brain to go on autopilot, right? It's really hard for that. But if you do that hard work, right, then in essence, what you're saying is your life, you can live longer, right? You can be healthier. Your life is going to be easier in the long run. Right. And curiosity is hard. That's why a lot of us don't do it, quite frankly. Right. And it's interesting to me because, when it comes to business and it comes to being an entrepreneur, like we talk about, we need to stay reading. We need to be learning. We need to be reading the books. I mean, my bookshelf right here, I got books at the wazoo back there. Right. Because like as an entrepreneur, I was taught you got to read. If you're not learning, you're dying. You're right. If you're not growing, you're dying. Right. Like we actually know that's true with nature, by the way, too. That's a natural thing, not just an intellectual thing. If nature is not growing, it's dying, too. But I digress from that. But what I'm saying, though, is that we do that with books and we do that with intellectual. And I guess what we're talking about today is we also need to do it with people. And we need to do it with human beings. Right. We're so good about reading books. Right. When I was doing my first network marketing company, back in 2013, right? I remember they told me something I will never forget. They said, Donte, go into a person with a whole bunch of money's house, and you will always find a library. and that stuck with me. And really, what that said is that like people who and not that money is everything, because we're not here talking about that. But what I am saying though is that there's a direct correlation between quote unquote success and learning and growing, right? That's really what they're trying to get to, in the growing, the learning piece. And I think that we need to extend that to human beings. We really do, because we like learning about books and reading all the things. And I think we need to extend that to some human beings and let's learn about different people and different cultures.
Absolutely. And so different cultures. For example, sometimes I'll contact a friend of mine and I'll say, hey, there is this event, with the Association of Latino Professionals, Minnesota, the Latino Chamber of Commerce in Minnesota. It's like, oh, no, that's for Latinos. No, it's actually not for Latinos. It's for everyone. Oh, yeah, but there are probably going to be like a bunch of Latinos there. I'm not Latino. No, it's like, it's all right, because you need to, like you were saying, Travis, diversify your network, right? So they say, okay, or maybe sometimes the person say, oh, no, I'm all right. Like I already have my network. I'm good. Like my network is already built. And I say, oh, really? Like how diversify your network is? Okay, how many Latinos do you have in your network? I know you, Luis. So it's like, well, that's not good enough.
Start.
It's a start, exactly. Yeah. But I think you should have more people there in your network. I'll share with you a quick story because it's important to understand that some of these things that we do, we don't do them intentionally because, again, like we're bad people or anything, but a lot of that is things that our brains are doing just automatically. So I want to share with you, like a story or a situation. So let's suppose that I tell you, so Donte, I tell you, okay, Donte, I want you to be at the window, and you're going, we're in a building. There is a street, going by, and I want you to be at the window, and I want you to write down how many Toyota Corollas pass by, right, in the course of 1 hour, right? So I leave, and then I'll come back after 1 hour, and I'll say, okay, Donte, how many Toyota Corollas did you count? And you're going to be very excited. Say, I counted 42. Wow, that's exciting. I did my job. Oh, amazing. Okay, wonderful, Donte. You did your job. Fantastic. And how many Nissans went by? It's like, I don't know. Okay, and how many, Jeeps went by? I don't know. Like, I didn't count or anything like that. Exactly. So why does that happen? And why am I bringing up this example? Because when I tell you I want you to be looking for Toyota Corollas, then your brain immediately goes in project mode and it focuses in those Toyota Corollas, so much so that it actually blinds you to the rest of what's happening, right? So there were other cars going by, but you didn't see them because you were looking for that Toyota Corolla. In the same way, it happens how we go about life. So for example, if I'm an entrepreneur and I am opening a business about, I don't know, like I'm a carpenter and I am doing a business about wood, I could very well be so focused on that very business that somebody comes to talk to me about something else, and I may be less interested in that. Just like when the Nissan was going by and I didn't see the Nissan, that person that is talking to me about something else is that Nissan that I'm gonna, just ignore. When in fact, that I am ignoring could very well be actually a hidden opportunity, right? That may advance the work in, something that will actually solidify or help to strengthen what I'm working on. Because what I need is then to actually tell my brain, we can't be on project mode here, and we need to then just, pause and then pay attention to the rest. I want to share on that same note one last example here. So imagine that we're working on a project. So Donte, you and I were working on a project, and I need to get that project completed. I'm in project mode because I need to deliver that to the client on Monday, and I have an appointment to meet with you. Like on whatever Tuesday morning, we're gonna meet at 8 a.m. And then I'm waiting to meet with you because you have information that is going to allow me to be able to advance my project so that I can have my product ready for the client on Monday. When I'm going to meet with you in the morning, you text me right before the meeting and you say, Luis, I'm so sorry. I couldn't sleep last night. I'm just going through a tough situation.
It was the election last night.
Can do it. Yeah. The election, right now, I'm just like, I'm disturbed. Can we just like move this? Or maybe you say my child was up all night, he's not feeling well, and I think he may have COVID, and after you say all that to me, I respond, okay, how about Thursday? How does your calendar look on Thursday? I'm not a bad person. I am just, my brain is looking for that Toyota Corolla. It's like everything that you told me that you had a bad night, that your son is not doing well, that he may have COVID. I mean, you're giving me a lot of valuable information, that you're opening your life and your heart to me, which gives me the opportunity to connect in a deeper way with you. But because I'm looking for that Toyota Corolla, my brain is so on focus that I can't hear anything else that you're telling me. But all I want to know is, when is it that you can meet with me? And you'll say, well, yeah, whatever, like we'll meet on Thursday, and then we'll meet, I'll get the information, and I deliver on my project. So in my mind, I was successful because I was able to complete my project. But if we look from a human-centered leadership, you are feeling, well, this Luis guy, he's just an egocentric guy that all he wants is to get his project done. But I miss on the opportunity to build a deeper relationship with you that may have more value than just the project that I'm going to turn in on Monday.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right, guys. Wow. What a fantastic conversation. We are running out of time. And, I think one of the things to understand in this, first of all, when you said that, Luis, at the very, I'm guilty of that. I'm totally guilty of that, of going, and I think it's just because we're moving at such a fast world, right? I mean, it's like, answer that email, get that text out, respond to this thing, and you're trying to do that and manage so many things that you just try to get it out quickly, and you don't stop to think about how does this person feel on the other side of that text, on the other side of that message.
Yeah.
And so, I'm going to wrap up this conversation by saying, first of all, one of the messages that came from today is curiosity. Right? Just be curious. Open the conversation. Have it with your organization. Have it with your company. Have it with your family and your friends and the people that you hold dearest. And just start the conversation. It's the beginning to healing. It's the beginning to change. It's the beginning to, so many things just by being open to listening and open to learning about others. Matter of fact, in learning about others, I want to let our audience know. I mean, guys, you've been getting, I know you don't see these, but you've been getting so many. I mean, people are telling us that, hey, I'm here, or I'm on today. It's so great to hear. We're live. I mean, oh my gosh, we're getting so many comments and so many things. I mean, like Sean says, I love what you were saying about growing curiosity. I think law of reciprocity figures big into it. I mean, there's just so many great things here. We are running out of time. I want to let people know how to connect with you following today. So let me go ahead and get that information ready. So first of all, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this in replay or you've been on today, we've been talking about human-centered leadership. And both of our guests have been fantastic. We're going to share Donte Curtis. First of all, Donte, if people want to know how to connect with you afterwards, they want to know how to find you and follow what you're doing and what's happening next for you, how do they find you?
Yeah, so Catch Your Dream is the name of my business. Catch Your Dream, no S. And the reason that is actually what Luis talked about today, because focus is so freaking important. It's not dreams, no S. So just Catch Your Dream on Instagram, on Facebook, and then you can connect to me on LinkedIn at Donte Curtis.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Donte. And Luis Moreno, thank you also for being a guest today. And if people want to connect with you afterwards and follow what you're doing and find you next, where do we find you?
Yeah, same thing, just as Donte. So I am on Instagram, is Luis Moreno, TCBPN, which are the initials of Twin Cities Business Peer Network, an organization that I belong to. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, Luis Moreno. And then I have a channel on YouTube that is Luis Moreno, TCBPN, and where you can find multiple videos with these conversations.
Awesome. I know we just barely scratched the surface of this conversation today. It went by so fast, and you guys have really added so much value to this conversation. So thank you. I truly appreciate you.